Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another episode of StuTube. Hopefully, you're all having a fantastic day. If I could just start by getting a quick audio visual check, make sure you can see my charts clearly. You can hear me clearly. I don't sound like a robot or anything like that. Yeah, I've actually been away from the charts for a little bit, had a nice little reset. Well, actually, I was still watching the charts and I was still trading, but I haven't been streaming the last little bit. You've probably noticed, some of you. Yeah, I was just out of the country, just traveling a little bit, enjoying my time. So, but I'm back home now for a few days, anyways. And yeah, I wanted to get a couple streams in. And guys, the price of Bitcoin has been quite volatile still. So, yeah, I mean, as far as trading goes, I mean, this is fantastic. The fact that, even though, yes, it is choppy price action and not everybody wants that choppy price action, a lot of people want that breakout. And that's whether you're bullish or bearish. Is, obviously we want a big breakout because that's when things really get exciting. But, these ranges are quite large. The ranges I've been talking about on this channel since I started streaming here, these have been nice big ranges, and that's all we're doing. We're still just range bound. So I know a lot of you guys, it's actually probably uncommon to see me saying something bullishly, because I know I have been quite bearish in the past. I've been quite vocal about that, but I promise I'm not a perma bear. I do want to be cautious of a few things that I'm going to go over here. I am going to get into the shorter time frames, take a look at a new indicator, do a whole bunch of stuff, taking a look at, the 1 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute chart, stuff like that. But I do want to start with my overall analysis, just because, like I said, I was away for a while and whatnot. So just to kind of look at what I am looking at right now, as far as my macro trend goes, my structure has not changed. Technically, I still do have my bearish structure here. It's just that the fact that we never set another lower low here before getting this bounce to the upside. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people would say this is in fact a higher low. I personally don't consider it a confirmed higher low, but yes, obviously buying pressure stepped in a little bit earlier that time, so we never quite even got a double bottom. But we ended up hitting my target absolutely perfect. For those of you who will remember that, I pulled the fib here and we hit the 786 basically right on the head. Absolutely perfectly. So that played out beautifully. The thing is, guys, with that bullish play, my target has been reached. As far as, my range target, which I'm always playing the range first, and usually I'm not even playing a 4-hour range, right? I'm always playing the shorter time frames and stuff like that. However, just looking at this for a 4-hour range for what it is, my target is always that 214 when I'm looking at a classic Stuber fib setup. So, I mean, that's obviously hit. We even went a little bit higher. Honestly, I'm not seeing too many warning signs yet, but it is just important to remember that, we are starting to get towards resistance. And I know I've talked about this a lot in the past over the last several weeks or over a month, is that, you're going to see all the bullish posts coming out. You're going to see everybody getting very excited as we trade up to resistance. And that's kind of where we're at right now, right? I mean, yes, it's possible that we actually face resistance right now because of where we are. I mean, we're obviously right at an important level, right? We got rejected once here already. But I was honestly thinking that we could push a little bit higher, even if we're going to get rejected and see some sort of a retrace. I personally think that there is room to go a little higher. Obviously, anything can happen. We can break structure to the downside right now, lose this support of this range and then start testing down to the lower of the macro range again. Sure, that is absolutely possible. But just if I'm going for my macro Stuber fib, if I just erase this bullish one here, and I'm going to pull from my lower high on this trend, I've had it mapped out for quite some time, from pulling from this lower high down to my lowest low. That range has not been broken yet, so my structure really hasn't changed there, and we haven't quite got up to my 786 yet. That would be around 65.5 thousand US dollars. We are a little bit shy of that yet. So, I mean, I was personally thinking that we would test up to the 886 at least, and that would be around 67.5K, hence the title of this video. Now, obviously, if there is weakness in the market here, then we could just front run the 786 just like we did back here. I mean, yeah, just forming a double top right now, absolutely a possibility. But the fact that we have already tested this level, and even with that weakness of front running the 786 rejection, we still never set that lower low, right? So that's where I'm just thinking that, there is actually quite a bit of strength here. And like I said, with that 786 bounce off that level, that was just a absolutely perfect Fibonacci bounce or reaction that I would expect out of my Stuber fibs. So absolutely beautiful. But yeah, like I said, we are starting to come up to resistance. I mean, we could even, if we wanted to classify this as a lower high and we could pull a fib like that. I mean, obviously it's more of a double top than a Stuber fib. However, same thing applies basically, right? We still have not invalidated it. We haven't got above the main resistance. So yeah, I mean, no matter how you look at it, Bitcoin has a lot of work to do basically. What I do like about what Bitcoin is doing right now is on the shorter time frames, it's reacting very well. Earlier this morning, I was talking with a different group, but ended up having, I just mentioned that I was planning to long this Stuber fib. Again, this is just a very ordinary, very just traditional Stuber fib setup that I teach on every one of these streams. Is basically here, we had this range we were trading in back here. We ended up losing that range. So if we want to look at this as our high, we ended up breaking that with this little peak over here, right? So after that, that's where, rather than FOMOing into the initial run, like a lot of people like to do, right? Resistance was broken, it's time to long, but that's where you get trapped as a late long. So I like to, and it doesn't always work in my favor. Yes, sometimes breakout plays do happen and then I'm not going to get a pullback. But basically I was saying to the others that, if we drop down into the 786, 886, I was planning to long that. So I did, right in the middle, basically. Well, actually I had laddered orders, but my average entry is right in the middle there. And then, something that I was talking about was that with, my classic Stuber fib setup, I'm looking for that 214 take profit, right? So not only was I eyeing that up for that reason, but also that we had this perfect, I know sometimes I'll talk about pennants and stuff like that. When I'm actually looking at range breakouts, I always like to see at least 3 touch points on a trend line before considering it a valid breakout. And that's why I was also eyeing up this level, is because that would have been a perfect third touch point at that diagonal level, as well as the horizontal fib level. So that's where I ended up closing. I believe it was about half of my position, and I've been nibbling at it ever since. I only have about 35% of it running at this point. But since we did get that third touch point and the breakout and then flipping that resistance into support here, I mean, that's a beautiful thing to see if you want to be bullish. I mean, seeing that resistance flip into support like that is absolutely beautiful. And yes, this is only the 1 minute chart, you guys. Okay. So understand that it is what it is. When I'm playing the 1 minute, we're not necessarily going to get the type of move that you would get it with a 4-hour chart, for example. But it is nice to see the technicals being respected like that, seeing that resistance, 3 touch points, flipping into support, carrying on to the upside like that. I am seeing a little bit of warnings here. And like I mentioned, I had, continuing to take profits on my position, because especially when you're trading something like a 1 minute or a 5 minute or anything smaller, lower time frame like that, I mean, you got to be paying yourself on the way. That's all there is to it. Like if your predictions are wrong, the way I look at it, if I'm wrong about us going up to 67.5K, it doesn't matter, because only a very small percentage of my position would even make that target, because I'm taking profits on the way, so that even if I'm wrong, I can at least take profits, especially when it's been running like this so nicely. This has been a beautiful trade. Quite often my scalps are a lot smaller than this, but the fact that it just kept running, I mean, yes, I was taking profits along the way. I believe for the first quarter, I ended up closing at about basically the middle of the range. And another quarter to close that first half at this level, like I said, and just nibbling from there. That way, that's a nice way to approach the market. I just feel a lot more relaxed, rather than, I know a lot of people like to do the whole should I exit my position or should I not? Well, if you're asking yourself that, maybe consider just closing part of your position and letting some ride. Because if you close it prematurely, you're gonna bite you're gonna be upset with yourself if you're like, exited early. You could have had a much better position. That's where I don't mind just both going in and out of positions. I like laddering in. I like laddering out, basically. So yeah, this position so far running nicely. Like I said on the 4 hour, yes, there's reasons why we got to be careful because we're trading up to resistance, but I am seeing some pretty good strength here. The one thing that does concern me a little bit on the 4 hour is that we have this bearish divergence on the RSI. You can see we're just trading sideways in a range at resistance, and we see the relative strength index dropping off a little bit. So that is a little bit concerning. What I do like about the RSI, speaking of that, is on the weekly, that very nasty bearish divergence on the RSI that I've been pointing out for months at this point, I think since the start of June. It does look like the RSI has broken this downtrend. So that's another thing, you guys. I know I had talked many times that the more I look at the weekly chart, the more bearish I was getting. But as it looks right now, I mean, things don't necessarily look too bad anymore. Things are at least starting to show signs of some kind of a reversal here. We're going to obviously have to be careful because we're still at resistance. But I mean, with everything going on with the rate cuts, there's a lot of bullish fundamentals around crypto right now. We got an election around the corner. I mean, there's a lot of fundamental things going in Bitcoin's favor right now. So I am open to the idea of, maybe my bearish theories, maybe they're done running their course. I mean, I'm still open to the idea of a big final flush, but if we don't get it, that's fine too. Everybody loves a bull market. I'm no different, even though, yes, I know I seemed like a perma bear for about a month there or 2 months there. I promise I'm not. But yeah, just looking at the 1 minute here, we did break some structure on the 1 minute, so we might see a little bit of a pullback. Just looking at this initial, or this entire trend, basically. I mean, here was our high. We set a higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. And this is very micro analyzing. I want to be clear about that because it is the 1 minute. So I am micro analyzing here, guys. Another higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. And you can see we ended up breaking that structure. So technically, we may be just forming some sort of a range at this point. Let me just erase some of this nonsense here. Perfect. Even if we end up coming to the upside here, there's potential for a bit of a hedge short, actually. And that's something that I would be interested in taking live on stream here if we get it. I honestly, my gut feeling is still telling me we're bullish, but since I already have a great long position in play, I would not mind taking a short. I'm not taking it right here, but if we get a bounce, since we had this structure break, we lost those candle lows. Just make this red as a bearish signal here. Since we got that structure break, now is where I'm kind of waiting for a pullback, right? It may not happen. And even if it happens, we may just blast right through and that position ends up getting stopped out. Whatever, that's fine. That's a part of trading. But I would be interested in hedging a short if we get back up to these levels around 64,440 to 64,490 kind of area. That's how I look at a Stuber fib, right? As soon as we break that structure, looking for a pullback up to that box and then looking for the rejection there. So I'm going to get ready to set some orders just in case we get up there. There's some other things I'm excited to show you guys here in a little bit, but I just want to kind of make sure, because I mean, the 1 minute, this is something I want to make very clear to you guys. Trading the 1 minute is not for everybody. Everything happens very quickly. If you're slow at making decisions or slow at setting your orders or anything like that, I mean, things can change very quickly, and you're looking at a shorter time frame like that. If it takes you a minute or two, things can be much different, and that trade may have come and gone for all I know. So that's just something to be cautious of with the 1 minute, and that's why I'm just taking a second here to take a step back. I want to make sure I just have some orders in mind here, kind of get them set up on my other device here, just so that I'm ready to basically hit the OK button, the sell button at that. But let me just get something ready here. 64. I would like to set an order at 64, 433, 64, 488, and 64, 544, basically just front running those fibs a little bit. Because like I was talking about, I always like to ladder into positions just to help my average entry, right? Because my invalidation is going to be just above my 115, in which case, if I end up grabbing all of these orders, my average entry will be somewhere around the 886. And I will, if we end up getting stopped out from there, then my long just takes over. This is just going to be a hedge position more than anything. Because like I said, on the 4 hour, we are getting to potential resistance. I personally think we're going to go a little bit higher, but I just want to protect myself if we do take that plunge, because if that happens, then I'll be happy that I entered this. But let me just clean things up for you a bit. Oh, whoops. How is everyone else? I gotta catch up on some of the chat here, but yeah, how's everyone else doing? How does everyone else feel about the markets right now? Everybody, are you guys mostly bullish, mostly bearish these days? How is everybody feeling about this? Yes, I am in a long already. If I don't know if you were here when I was talking about that, but I entered this long down here at this blue dotted line. That was just a classic Stuber fib setup. Took it this morning. But yeah, I would like to get into a hedge short. If we never had this break of this red line here, and I know it seems very minimal, but and I know it seems like micro analyzing, which it is, but that's how scalping works. And on the 1 minute, I'm looking at each individual move basically. So being I have a high here and a higher high here, higher low, we lost that structure. So just in case that is going to be a shift and we are going to start trending to the downside, I just want to protect myself, but only if we end up getting up here for a better entry, right? Because I don't want to take a loss. I don't want to FOMO into a short at this level if my invalidation is way up here, right? That's way too big of a loss for the type of play I'm looking for. It also depends, everyone has their own trading strategies. But I'm more of a high leverage, shorter time frame kind of a trader myself. My stop loss usually, so I'll pull my Fibonacci's like that, and I do leave some wiggle room past my 115. At that point, it's just kind of a gut feeling. Past some, if there's any nearby structure, if there's a nearby round number, something like that, I try to push it back a little bit further. The 115 is really just there as a mental note to leave some wiggle room, right? Rather than thinking I'm going to enter a short here and have my stop loss a few bucks above the structure over here. I mean, I want to leave some of this wiggle room as a bit of a liquidity grab, right? In case the market maker wants to allow these stops to be hit, grab all that liquidity and then push it down. That's kind of what that 115 is there to remind me of. Yeah, the 115. But like I said, I do leave some wiggle room past that. Like in this case, I'd probably be looking at 64, 677 approximately. I usually give or take like $50 or something for these types of ranges. Spyros, welcome. Good to see you again. You were hoping I was going to be a bear, did you? You're one of the only people hoping that. Everyone's been frustrated that I've been a bear. Honestly, the way I feel about the market right now, I'm still not a moon boy right now. I'm just a little bit bullish, I would say. I'm just not bearish anymore, I guess. I'm willing to accept the fact that my bullish thesis may have played out. We got like a 30% move to the downside or 25%, whatever it was. It played out great. Made some great shorts in that process. And, I'll take more if they come. But as it looks, I do see strength from the bulls still. If the shorter time frames, start to see the 5 minute, the 15-minute stuff like that rolling over, or if I notice anything with the indicators, I'll be willing to take a stab at a short, kind of like, what I just pointed out here. I'm willing to take a stab at one. But that doesn't mean I'm necessarily bearish at this point. Also, I don't have it loaded up here. I was meaning to bring up the long short ratio on the MDX ALGO dashboard, but I think it was something like, the longs and shorts were a lot closer to 50-50. Whereas before, when we were getting those big market nukes, when we were crashing all the time, the market was more like high 70s long, like most of the market was very long heavy. And that was just providing some fuel for the market maker to basically soak that up and push the price lower, right? But we don't have that near as much now. So I'm willing to accept the fact that, we're trading into resistance and the market isn't super long heavy yet. So just another thing another reason why I think, we're not getting shut down super hard at this resistance or anything like that. Yes, the RSI is going down right now, but we'll have to see what happens. Again, as far as the macro structure goes, we really, in my opinion, we need to break 70K for me to go total moon boy, because that would be an actual structure change that I would be very interested in on the macro time frame, just because, like, I have it all laid out here. This is not this is not emotional bias or anything like that. This is all just very clearly laid out: lower lows and lower highs. Every time we set a lower low, that confirms our new lower high. And so far that hasn't changed, right? We are in this range from 70,000 US dollars down to 49,000 US dollars. Very big, juicy range. But yeah, this range has not been broken yet. So that's basically what I'm looking at. And yeah, it looks good. It looks like on the shorter time frames, Bitcoin's actually holding its own pretty good going into resistance. But it's just something to be cautious of. What about liquidations? Oh, yeah. See, that's why I like bringing up these indicators once in a while as a second opinion, because, there is a little bit of liquidity, a little bit higher. You know what? Rather than 67.5, I wonder if we get shut down. I still think we could pump a little bit higher, but it almost looks like the end of the liquidations for the shorts is coming up relatively quick, kind of more at like 65.2, 65.3K. That's where our high leverage liquidity is basically right now. So that's interesting. There is a lot more people to get liquidated if we do push to the downside. So like I said, guys, I'm open to being a little bit more bullish right now, but I am also very open to the idea of my original June theories of seeing much lower prices. I mean, it can happen. That's the thing with trading, right? That's the difference between analyzing and trading. Is analyzing, yes, it's great to come up with theories and come up with ideas and, how you expect things to play out. But actually trading it, that's where you can't just bank on your analysis being 100% correct and then taking those trades, right? You have to be able to react. And I say it every time, reacting is way more important than predicting. And, if all of a sudden the market starts shifting to the downside, well, then, you know what? Maybe we are going to go and grab a bunch of that liquidity. And, something like that, if we were going to get a full on reversal, or not a reversal, but a swing to the downside, what I'll be looking for is some sort of a Stuber fib pull. So even pulling it from our current bottom there, I mean, notice that all that liquidity is right around the 786 and 886 fib pockets. So just very slightly below the 886 at around 53.3K, there's liquidity right down to that level. So yeah, just be cautious at these levels. That's the thing. When we're at resistance, yeah, it looks good, but we are still at resistance. So don't forget that. The ALGO master indicator. So this is the new indicator I'd mentioned earlier. This thing is just absolutely beautiful, you guys. And check this out. It gives us some of the previous data. It gives us back tested data of how often the trade signals are playing out, what percentage, what the net profit is over how many trades. It has all this very cool info. This indicator, very new. I've barely looked at it yet. I've only been using it for a few days because, like I said, I was out of the country for a bit there. And this thing just looks like it's going to be absolutely phenomenal. I love that it shows this back tested data so we can kind of get an idea of, you know, what settings to set it on and stuff like that, because we can set the sensitivity on this indicator and stuff like that. Very cool. Acts very much like that. What was it? The Trendmaster indicator that I was using on these streams quite a bit. Very much the same concept, but it's got a whole bunch of very cool features in it here. You guys check this out. So we have sensitivity that'll change the buy and sell signals, kind of how many we get. Like if I really, well, it is already cranked up pretty high, but I can change the sensitivity on these. You can even set it to autopilot so that it'll basically pick whatever settings it figures are best for the current conditions. And yeah, very cool there. So I've been using this on 8 on the 4 hour. Yeah, you can change your signals. There's a whole bunch of other features with this. I generally like to keep my charts very clean, but there's so much customization you can do with this. You can point out divergences. You can bring up automatic Fibonacci's. You can bring up the daily, weekly, monthly opens, all that sort of stuff. Very cool indicator. Very excited to use this more. But yeah, love how it shows all the different sensitivities, because as it changes, you know, if you enter different market conditions, different sensitivity is going to work a little bit different. So then you can kind of eyeball on this and just adjust things a little bit if you need to and that sort of thing. But absolutely beautiful indicator there. Scoring some pretty good results there too. You know, so it's just basically posting the results of the last 25 trades and showing, you know, the win rate, the average trade profit and all that sort of thing. And remember, that's all without leverage, right? So very cool. Are we even going to get up to my short? That's kind of what I'm looking for, right? I'm trying to get in at the 786,886, and my first target would basically be the 214. I'd front run it a little bit like I always do, but that's kind of what I'm looking for. Let's see what the Trendmaster indicator is saying. Now we still have a buy. So this is something else, you guys. Very cool thing with this indicator here. I'm just going to actually... You know what? I want to open up another version of this chart, remove all the drawings, and just have that indicator. Notice it also automatically plots the support zones. So these are actually the demand boxes, right? Demand zones, supply zones. Automatically does it. So especially if you're trading, you know, someone like me, I love multitasking. I have 3 monitors up at all times. I like to play video games, be trading crypto, and watching videos at the same time, basically. Having something like this is just an absolute game changer. It's automatically pointing out my resistance and support levels. And then on top of that, I basically like to watch which way these signals are trending, right? So in an uptrend, higher trending buy signals, that's when obviously, yeah, it's printing out these support zones and we're getting higher buy signals. Each one of these just, again, on... I said this with the Trendmaster indicator before that. I don't always take every trade, right? I'm not going to take every single signal that this indicator fires at me, but I love using it to kind of point out a trend. And it's beautiful that it points out, you know, as I get these higher buy signals, we're obviously trending to the upside. And on top of that, when it starts printing out these support boxes on the way, it really helps emphasize just like how, you know, where the important levels are, where the important buy levels are, all that sort of stuff. You can actually even bring up, with those order blocks, you can actually bring up some data too. This is all above my head. It shows percentages and stuff. I believe it's also showing what size of orders there were at that level and stuff like that. So, like I said, guys, there's just so many cool things you can do with this indicator. I'm absolutely loving it here. So yeah, ideally, I would love to see us come up towards that 786 that I was talking about, and I would love to see a lower sell signal come in. Even if it was just we test up here and then come down and then we see a lower sell signal print there, that would just be confirmation that, you know, at that point, I'm glad I have a bit of a hedge short just in case, because that would just be signaling that, hey, even though like back here, obviously it didn't matter, right? We got a downward sloping sell signal. It didn't matter, but the buy signals never did change, right? But it was a good warning. And had you entered somewhere along this trend, really anywhere along this trend, and you took that as a signal to take a little bit of profits or downsize your risk or whatever, just a way of using the indicators as a risk management as well, because I know a lot of people only use indicators for trying to force more entries and, get into more positions. But I myself, I like to use them for risk management, taking profit, all that sort of thing. I think they can be so helpful. So if that does interest you guys, I do have a link down below that gives an additional 10% discount on top of current promotions at checkout with these indicators. So very cool. Not only are they beautiful indicators, but they also look just absolutely beautiful. Very sharp product. I've been using these indicators for just over 2 years, actually coming on 2 years and 2 months or something like that. The only other indicator I really use out there is the RSI. Other than that, I use the MDX ALGO indicators, but there's a whole slew of them. I mean, these all come in the bundle. I think it's like 15 of them or something like that. But yeah, wonderful indicators. Absolutely love them. Use them every single day. I believe we have a few ALGO members in here right now. How does the Stuber fibs work on altcoins? Basically, I use the Stuber fibs for everything. I don't really. Oh, there's that lower sell signal, but that's premature. That might be a good short opportunity because your invalidation would be nice and tight, just basically above this red box somewhere. But I myself, I really wanted to wait for that Stuber fib pull retrace before getting into a position. So I'm not going to take that hedge. But for those risk seekers, there's a potential setup there. Not financial advice. Do your own research. With altcoins, I personally don't really trade altcoins. I've had scenarios before where there was bad liquidity with altcoins, and when I had a stop loss that was in a profit, I got liquidated on the position anyways. I've had that happen a couple of times, and that annoyed me. So I mostly trade Bitcoin, because also when I'm looking at the 1 minute and stuff like that, I don't feel that desperate to look around and find something, because so often the criteria I'm looking for just plays out. And honestly, if I start looking at different charts, I might miss what I'm looking for on Bitcoin as well. So I personally mostly trade Bitcoin, but I've looked at altcoins with Stuber fibs. I've also looked at stocks with Stuber fibs. I've definitely noticed like Tesla and MicroStrategy, companies like that. I've noticed them respecting Stuber fibs as well. It obviously takes a while to get an eye for them. Like, me telling you how I see them is one thing, but there's often times where I don't see it until it's already played out once. When, once you start waiting for that second one, if you're going to, if we did something like this, where we came up here and then we came back down and I felt, oh no, I missed a perfect Stuber chance, I'm going to take it next time we get up there. Well, just remember that we've already tested this level. So now if we're going to test it again, that just might be a sign that there was weakness with this position, right? So I personally only like to play them when it's the initial test. I just find that there's more likely to be a reaction then to see, because the deep pockets, the big players, they want to see what happens at those levels. If we get pushed to the downside, maybe October, at least the beginning will be spoiled. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, honestly, I don't have a strong opinion about the market right now, as far as like a midterm scenario. And that's rare because I have been so aggressively bearish June, July, August that it feels different to not have a very strong opinion right now. But that being said, you know what, I'm willing to play either direction right now. It's just looking for those tight risk reward setups, right? And that's why I wait for those Stuber fib pulls, because I just like to get closer to my invalidation levels than just FOMOing into a breakout or something like that. Why do I use Blowfin on Tradingview and not the Bitcoin index? Because I want the prices to be exactly what I am trading, and I'm trading on Blowfin. So I just want the exact signals, because even on a different chart, these signals with my indicators might end up being a little different. Fibonacci's are probably going to be relatively the same, but yeah, numbers can be slightly off, right? One exchange could have, $100 higher than another exchange or whatever. So I just always use whichever one I'm personally trading on. How can I call this a potential double top when I'm not calling the previous? Here, let me just get this out here. How can I call this a potential double top when I'm not calling that previous top level a lower high? So I guess my reasoning for that is the reason I'm not considering this a lower high. And I mean, chances. So it totally depends how you're looking at it. So I don't consider it a lower high because it hasn't been confirmed with another lower low yet. Whereas double top, I mean, we're just basically coming to the same area again. So I'm considering that it's potential. And honestly, I don't know if we are going to get shut down here. It's not a super obvious double top if it is one, because we've just been consolidating here for so long. But yeah, this, so I should be careful how I word that, because I do consider it a lower high. It's just not the type of macro lower high that I would consider a shift in the trend, right? Because after we broke this low to set a lower low, the highest point between the two is our highest point, and that has not been broken yet. And since we set that low has not been broken yet. So that's the entire range that I'm looking at, is this. So yeah, on a shorter time frame, like there's ranges inside ranges, right? So this is a lower high on a different scale, but just for the macro structure that I'm looking at, that's where I'm looking at this entire thing being the range, basically. Same thing that I did back here, right? After we ended up breaking this low, setting a lower low, we have a new range. We end up getting up to that 786, 886. From there, we end up setting another lower low. And then that confirms this as the highest point between this lower low and this lower low. And then notice where we end up getting rejected again is right at the 886. And then from there, we set another lower low. and that confirms the highest point between those two as our new lower high. And this has not changed yet. So that's why I'm not considering the other one an actual confirmed lower high. Hopefully that makes sense. That's just basically how I look at structure and what convinces me to consider a Stuber fib, I guess. When I'm looking for that continuation of a trend or anything like that, I want to see those ranges break first. So yes, there is a smaller range inside here, but as far as the bigger range, nothing has broken yet. If you want to look at the smaller range, then yes, right now would be around double top territory, right? Because we would have basically, we had this high, we set a higher high. This would have been our higher low. We end up breaking that. And now we're getting that pullback, which is why I said earlier that we are technically already at resistance. We broke the 786 very easily, which is also a sign of strength. But technically this whole pocket right here is resistance. And then technically right above us is the more macro resistance that I've been looking at. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. And not everyone's going to look at it the same or trade it the same, right? I mean, we could have the exact same things mapped out. We could have the same indicators and everything, and we would trade the market completely different. So it really just depends how you look at things, what catches your eye, and how you can trade it, right? That's why I say reacting over predicting any day. Just it depends how you react to something and how you have it back tested, basically. Yeah, it has got a little move to the downside since that lower sell signal, but like I said, I just really I like those pullbacks into those fib levels. I almost never enter positions until I'm in a 786, 886 fib pocket of some kind. That being said, I'm seeing potential for some nice strategies with this new indicator here. I just have to play around with it a little bit longer here because, like I said, I've only really been using it for a few days. But especially when we get these demand zones coming in with a buy signal kind of a thing, same with when we get a sell signal with our supply boxes. Those are just very strong confluence to one another, right? One is just showing that, hey, there's big orders at this level. And then you also have the corresponding signal on the indicator agreeing with that. I mean, that's just a great confluence to have. And then if you happen to have a Fibonacci in there as well, all the better. If you can find some divergences and stuff like that, even better. But yeah, I'm excited to play around with this one a little more. Curious if anybody did take that lower sell signal short as a hedge. Like I said, I wasn't brave enough and we did not get up to my orders, but it's still possible we get up there. But if we end up setting a lower low here, which I think we will very soon, then I'm going to cancel my other order, that hedge short, just because structure's starting to change and stuff like that. I'm going to have to reevaluate, but let's see. Oh man, this is messy, but this might be a perfect double bottom as well. Technically, we did close some candle bodies higher than these ones that back here. So just looking at this as a bit of a structure change, right? We set our lows, lower low, lower high. We ended up breaking it. And we have not broke that low yet. So technically we could pull a micro range, something like this, and notice where we are finding support right now, right in that 786, 886. Wouldn't be too surprised to see us end up testing this 214 around 64.2, even 64, 220, something like that. We'll have to see, but that's kind of what it looks like it's setting up for. I personally don't use any bots. That's something I do want to start getting into, is automating some trading. I just personally want to learn how to do it that I can automate my own strategies. Yeah, MDX has a bot. Yeah, a lot of people I know do automated trading. I just have to look into it a little more. But that's something that I should really do, because there's so often, I mean, especially if I could, whip something up on the 1 minute or 5 minute, that's just a scalping machine. Because, there's so many trade setups that I'm missing. So many of these Stuber fib setups that happen throughout the course of a day, that if it was just grabbing grabbing those real quick here and there on a shorter time frame, I mean, I think there's huge potential there. I would love to not miss any of them. Obviously it's going to lose some as well, because every trading strategy loses as well. But I really do want to set that up at some point. I'm just a little computer illiterate. I know how to use crypto and I know how to trade crypto, but when it comes to setting stuff up, oh, that's a scary game. Look at the 15-minute. I can take a look at the 15-minute. Oh, I just want to clean things up a little bit. 1 second. 15-minute, you say. Getting some warning shots on the 15. Also, something that I notice right away is if I pull a fib from this peak right here to there, notice we're getting rejected right at that 786, 886 fib. Notice that we go up, we wick fill this box almost perfectly, and then all the candle bodies are struggling to get inside. What else can I say about this? Yeah, if we do end up pulling back here, the unfortunate thing is, so this is one of those times where we don't actually have a structure break to the upside. So even if we pull back, I can't necessarily take a swing at a new Stuber fib here. Yeah, I guess from like down here, for example. Yes, we may find support at the 786, 886, but we don't have the higher high, right? We never did break this level. So there's just less of a chance of us getting a bounce that actually has follow through and sets, carries on the trend to the upside, right? Yes, it's very possible we get some sort of a reaction like that where we can get a nice scalp out of something like that. But it's not an actual Stuber fib. I just want to be clear about that. Doesn't meet all the criteria. What's this indicator saying? We still have a buy signal. We're quite a ways away from it though, right? Obviously you'd be wanting to enter near the line that the buy signal is giving, and notice it does line up in this demand box as well. What else can I see on the 15-minute? Let's just zoom out a little bit. Let's remove all the drawings here. Clean slate. So the first thing I notice is, even though we never set that higher high, we are still technically in an uptrend with how I'm looking at structure, because just check this out. Here we had a high and we obviously broke that, set a higher high. I'm going to make this green just to make sure that's a bullish signal there. Lowest point between the two would be this level back here. And then if we pull a fib, something like that, I mean, so actually I had no idea it was going to play out that way, even when I started pulling it. So this is one of those times as well that, yes, if we get back down to these levels, technically it's support because we're in an uptrend, because since we set a higher high, we have not set a lower low. So therefore, that is the range that we're trading in. And if we pull back to this level, unfortunately, yeah, we're starting to test it more than I would like, right? We're starting to test support a little too much, and we may have missed our chance because we already got bought back up from this level twice. But notice that did play out, right? After we got that structure break, we get a pullback to that 786, 886 fib pocket, a run to that 214 fib. Boom. Beautiful Stuber fib play there, even on the 15 minutes. So that's the thing. Chart structure generally works the same, right, guys? I mean, whether you're looking at the 4-hour, the daily, the 5-minute, the 15-minute, the 1-minute, whatever, structure generally works the same. It's easier to invalidate shorter time frames because it obviously takes way less money, but the structure does act the same. Okay, auto charting tools. I like to see this. So one thing that I have pointed out on this channel many times as well that I like to do with these indicators is I love using this auto charting tools. This indicator plots these points here. It has a whole bunch of other features it can do as well, but like I said earlier, I like to keep my charts fairly clean. I love pulling Fibonacci's from these points. Yes, obviously it's not going to play out every time, but so often it's just basically a life hack. Just pull a fib, something like this, chase the price. So if we do end up coming down, there's a good chance that this is, if looking for a long entry, it's better rather than FOMOing in at the top into resistance, waiting for that pullback. We do have this indicator agreeing this is an important pivotal point, and then looking for a pullback to my fib box. That's just a strategy that I've liked using with these indicators before. And I mean, you can see even here, it would have probably played out. How did this go? If we just pulled a fib from there, yeah. So same thing, even though it did end up reversing, just notice that it pulling a fib from this lower high signal and just following the price down to the next. We pull back, entering at the 786, 886 and the 1, invalidation past the 115, target 214. Like you just, once you start to see these, you just start to see them everywhere, right? Yes, obviously these are all in hindsight, so they're of no use to us right now, but just kind of showing examples of, how it's worked in the past. And yeah, just kind of how I like to use that strategy, right? So that's something that I'd be interested in. I mean, the 15-minute is even a little bit long for me. I like being a total degen on the shorter time frames, but if we start approaching these levels on the shorter time frame, then I can start looking for a mini Stuber fib setup, right? I can look for some sort of a, if we start approaching this box here, and on the 1 minute, all of a sudden we end up breaking out of a lower high structure kind of a thing, and then getting a Stuber fib pullback from there, it can help me really dial in my entry, right? Trying to get it a lot tighter on a shorter time frame, even if I'm looking at playing something like this on the 15-minute, just really zooming in and then looking for that confirmation on a shorter time frame. So if we end up getting down there, that would be around 63.1 down to 62.9, and then even 62.7 would be where that pivotal point is. So yeah, might be some potential long opportunities down there. You did. Oh yeah, you were looking to take the short because we didn't take the previous high. So yeah, basically what I was talking about then, right? It just looks a little bit weak because we never set that higher high there before getting rejected. Well, if anyone did take that that short off the lower sell signal there, congrats, you're in a nice profit already. Like I said, I never did take it. But that's what I mean using these indicators. Um, Even if not using them as an entry, I mean, in that case, yeah, it would have worked out as a perfect hedge. But just again, as risk management, right? Just being able to take profits when you notice things starting to change directions and stuff like that. There's so many ways that you can really start to use these things. And that goes for any indicator, you guys, not just the ones I use. um like one of my favorite things to do with any indicator is just noticing how it's trending, not so much each signal that it's giving, but just helping you to really point out the trend, because you're supposed to be trading the trend, right? So it helps you pick which way you should be scalping if you're a scalper, for example. Oh, this ain't tone. Welcome though. um yeah, that's a good point. Time is also very important. And that's kind of one thing that is leading me to change my bias. The fact that I was so bearish before is just how long we're consolidating at this all-time high. Yes, technically we are still setting lower lows. It's just that, the fact that we've been trading sideways for so many months and not really seeing that nuke off a cliff is just that time might be working in our favor, because as I was talking about earlier, I mean, with an election, a very important election right around the corner and that sort of stuff, there very well, I would expect a lot of money to be, getting injected into the markets, into the economy as a whole, right? And generally speaking, around election time, I mean, markets tend to fly. So, if the Bears don't pull the trigger, that window is starting to close up. I myself don't analyze time all that much either, but I can, there's definitely something to that. And I agree with what you're saying that, yes, absolutely, there's some importance there. Just depends what analysis works for you, right? And actually, on some of my previous streams here, one thing that I had mentioned is using time on my side is quite often if I enter a position, and it doesn't matter what time frame it's on, but I have a little rule in my head that, if there's been approximately 10 candles and I haven't done anything with my position, maybe I should consider, downsizing the position, taking some profits, cutting a position early. Depends what it's kind of doing at that point, because you know um, my reasoning for that is basically just to help you remember to play what time frame you're playing. If something hasn't played, if I enter a trade on a 1 minute chart and it hasn't done anything remotely close to what I figured within 10 candles, then maybe I was just kind of wrong. So starting to downsize risk and stuff like that. um and then same with, if I'm trading the 1 hour, well, in 10 hours I should start to consider, well, should I update anything with my position, and so on, right? Just the longer time frames, obviously, same amount of candles, but just a longer period based on which time frame. But that's just a general rule of thumb I have. It's not a concrete rule or anything. It's just kind of in the back of my mind to remember to play what I'm playing, because I think that's such a difficult thing for a lot of people to do, and why people struggle with trading the shorter time frames so much is because they will enter a position on a 1 minute and expect it to make a move for a full day, for example, which, well, we all know on the 1 minute the structure's changing all the time, right? So you have to remember what time frame chart you're actually trading. Yeah, still looking a little bit weak here. I don't really want to bet against it, since I already missed that short opportunity that, you know, we never did get up to my targets there that I wanted. Unfortunately, that's trading. You don't always get the position that you want, but I'm not willing to FOMO into a short either. I would consider, actually, let me check some different time frames here. Um, Look this structure here. Yeah, it's possible we go for a little tumble, a little pullback. One thing that I could look for right now would be basically, since starting this little downtrend here, just going over that strategy I talked about earlier with the auto charting tools. I have a lower high signal printed here. So at this point, I could, or would it have got one? It might have just played out that really short, that really small one. I would be willing to go something like this. And again, just basically chasing the price. As the price is going down, I'm pulling my Fibonacci. I'm going to erase this one just to clean it up. But yeah, that's just a strategy that I like going off. So I'd be looking at something like this, right? If we end up getting up to 786, invalidation just above my red. Well, with that lower high signal, honestly, if we get any little bit above that, pretty much, I'd be looking at it as being invalidated. But basically, that's what I'd be looking at for that type of a strategy. Just pulling the fib off that lower high signal off the auto charting tools and looking for that 786, 886 fib pullback. Maybe I should set a new order, try and catch that. Um, 188. Sorry, just setting some orders on my other device here. And as things change, that's the thing with trading the 1 minute. Like I was talking about earlier, things change so fast that if all of a sudden, if we get a new lower high signal or we break that level or, something else catches my eye, then I might just have to remove my orders. But as it stands right now with how this looks, I'd love to try and swing at a short in this box here. So my first entry is going to be 64,188. My second one will be 64,233, and then 64,269. Stop loss 64,344. And now we see what happens. And yeah, again, guys, that's just very simplified Stuber fib. So as any trading strategy, obviously they can lose, but this is one that I love using, and just having, basically combining my own strategy with some of the auto charting tools like that. It's just been a bit of a life hack. So especially for people who struggle with not knowing where to pull fibs from and stuff like that, I just find that it can be so helpful. Even though I understand pulling fibs and that sort of thing, sometimes it just draws your attention to, hey, there might be another little range here, kind of a thing that's worth a scalp, and so on. So that's kind of what I would really like using them for. And just, again, a second opinion, right? Because at the end of the day, I mean, a lot of people do use indicators too much to try and force trades. But if you have a good grasp of structure and you have, a strong foundation to your technical analysis already, and then using indicators to give you a second opinion, I mean, it's just absolutely great. Like I said, if these indicators I use do interest you, there is an additional 10% discount on top of current promotions at checkout if you use my link down below. Again, not only do I love making trading strategies with these indicators. Like I said, I'm excited to play with the new one there, but they also just look so visually appealing. Absolutely love these indicators. Like I said, if you're like me and you like multitasking, I mean, having the indicators just automatically pointing things out to you like this, oh, it's so nice. You know, especially on a 1 minute rather than redoing my chart and moving things around every 3 minutes. At least I can just kind of let the chart do its thing and things will just pop up. Love it. Let's get some music going here too while we chill for a little bit. I don't know how much longer I'll be staring at the charts here, but for a little bit, so I haven't been streaming much, but I'm back at least for a few days. Going on another adventure in a couple of days, but I'll only be gone for a few days this time. Let me know if the music gets too loud or annoying or anything also. Hopefully you can still hear me over it, or hopefully not for your sake. And guys, if you do appreciate these videos, you know, taking a look at the markets, just hanging out, looking at the charts like this, do me a favor, hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to Financial Summit for those of you who haven't. I know a lot of people have mentioned to me that they missed my streams. They never knew that I was streaming or whatever, but a lot of people were looking for it on my own YouTube channel. So I also do streams here. So yeah, definitely do that. And as well, for those of you who don't know, I do have my own YouTube channel, Stu Trading, all one word. Sometimes I stream there as well, or just shorter videos and stuff. So subscribe there as well. Chaos, welcome. All is fantastic, bro. Oh, you've been away too? Yeah, I was. I've been mostly away for a week or so. I did notice you weren't around much. He's back. Fib the up move, not the down. So for me, I pull the fib whichever direction that I'm looking for a setup. So if I'm looking for a bullish super fib, I will pull it looking for the bounce. So I'm pulling it bottom to top. If I'm looking for a short setup, I like to pull top to bottom. That's just a way that I've done things for years at this point. But really, like, even the way I have my fibs set up, so like the 214, for example, is basically the opposite 786. So, but I only have those few Fibonacci's on my Fibonacci tool, just because that's such a very specific trade setup that I always look for. Well, when you're talking about pulling at bottom to top, are you talking about like on the micro trend here, like where we've bottomed for now? I would say we can still go down even further here, because this is, again, one of those times where we never actually broke the lower high structure. Just because this would have been Well, actually, it depends where you want to go from. See, if we go on this trend, here's our low. Here we set a lower low, and notice that the lower high signal that printed is the highest point between the two. So that's why I like to pull a Fibonacci from there and look for a scalp short if we end up hitting that. Not rushing into anything, but that's kind of what I was looking for now. But yeah, right now, I mean, we still got the lower trending sell signals. We did just print this supply zone here, this red box here. Have since printed this demand box, but I mean, the trend is still obviously down, so take it for what it is. If I were to guess, if I were a betting man, and I definitely am, I would say we're probably going to print a lower buy signal here relatively soon. And then that's where I would, again, since it's a lower buy signal, I don't know how serious I would take it for a bullish setup. Oh, yeah, you're talking about the full swing. Yeah, yeah. That would be that same one I was looking at on the 15-minute, I believe. Yeah, you'd be looking at something like this. And I totally agree. If we get down there, I will probably be looking at taking another swing at a long. But yeah, it does look like we're going to keep going down. I'm just not confident enough to pull the trigger on a short. I'm bummed out that I never got that bounce up as high as I wanted, because that would have obviously been a beautiful play. Guess I should have just committed to the lower sell signal there. Bring up the daily chart here. Yeah, mixed signals here. On the daily chart, very mixed signals with the indicator, because we have a buy signal. However, it's a lower buy signal. We are trading into a supply zone. The auto charting tools has been printing lower high, lower high. It could definitely print another lower high here. Who knows? But that also, with that auto charting tools, the higher lows, the lower highs, those pivot points, those are actually a lagging indicator. I don't know exactly how they get printed. I think it has to do with structure as well as volume. But either way, it's a little bit lagging. So it's not guaranteed that they're going to be there in time for a Stu or Fib setup, even, for example. But that's the same with anything to do with trading, right? Just sometimes you got to wait. You don't always get what you want right away. The Wave Master indicator, I feel like it still has a little room to the upside on the daily. The 4 hour, it has plenty of room. That's very interesting with the 4 hour. Sorry, I just want to get rid of these order blocks for now. So on the 4 hour, a couple things that I notice right now with the indicators. One is obviously we have higher trending buy signals. That's great. Obviously that triggered quite a while ago, but we still have that trend holding up, so that's good. The Wave Master indicator looks like it's got a bullish cross, and looks like it's going to be curling to the upside. Obviously, we'll have to see. But this is actually what caught my eye about this, is that we got on the Wave Master indicator this blue dot here, basically, what is it, a TTM squeeze. So basically predicting that volatility is coming. And even though we ended up getting this bearish pivot with volatility incoming, we just continued trading sideways and even started trading a little bit higher, because we actually got candle bodies closing above these candle bodies back here. So that's actually nice looking, in my opinion. So to see that we never got that bearish break in structure after a very strong reversal signal like that, I think that's very good for the bulls right now. So that's interesting. Even next time when we see the next sell signal come in on the 4 hour, I'm 99% sure it's going to be a higher sell signal. So then if we get a higher buy signal from there, I think that'll be beautiful entry. A lot can happen between now and then, obviously, but that's just kind of what I'm looking at right now. What I think, what I'm predicting is going to happen with this. Holy, that 1 minute reacting pretty good to that little pump there. Just curious. I feel like if it's pulled from here, it probably would, but no, actually front run the 786 a little bit. So there's good buying pressure there. Never even got to my Stuber, bullish Stuber setup there, even though it is just the 1 minute. The fact that the 786 got front run, in my opinion, that looks like there's some strength there. That makes me question. Oh, I should probably check my other device here and see if I got it into my entry here. Oh, for sure I did. Yeah, filled my first order and part of my second. Half of my second got filled. I don't know, that's a pretty strong reaction there, so I'm a little nervous about this short, but whatever. It is still just a hedge to that long. And yeah, if we break above this, if we break 64,340, what is it? 64,344 is the stop loss on this short for me. Because basically, if we break above this 115, especially with this lower high signal here, I'm going to consider my setup invalidated. And that's fine. Because that's a nice tight invalidation, whereas if I had, let's say, looked at the same short but started entering down here, obviously looking at a breakout like that, shorting into support is obviously not what you want to do. So even if this gets stopped out, at least it's got tight invalidation. But we'll see if we even hit my other orders. And if this gets stopped out, then my long is going to take the wheel from there. And then I'll probably just let that run for a while. Oh, that got very close And I have a feeling that's gonna end up getting stopped out, but we did hit my other entry. Yeah, the fact that we got above this lower high signal period makes me think that this is just going to blast through. Since it's just a wick so far, I'm willing to let it go. And like I said, since it's a hedge, I don't overly care that much. But yeah, we'll see what happens. That's why I leave that wiggle room, right? So hopefully that was just a liquidity grab. Yeah, the fact that they're actually closing above the 886 too just seems like there's a little strength there. Oh, my long. Right, I accidentally erased my long. What was that at? 62, 8, 9, 7. What is the sensitivity on my ALGO master right now? What am I using? I want to say like 2, 1. So I have it on low sensitivity to basically give me some extra wiggle room. Asia just opened? Doesn't Asia open in like 2 hours? Yeah, I think the Bulls are still hungry myself, but like I said, even though we're coming up to this 4-hour resistance, yeah, I'm glad I have a hedge there just in case. Even though the hedge is on a shorter time frame, but it doesn't look overly weak here. Especially with that indicator holding support. So you just notice when we get those trending signals, right? Get this buy, get a higher buy signal. Boom, beautiful run to the upside. Back here, buy signal, higher buy signal, beautiful entry. Hell, even this lower sell signal, beautiful entry. And obviously, they're not going to play out all the time. But in a trending market, man, can you make some nice running positions with those. Oh, yeah, I think she is about to be toast. Yeah, she's gone. So we let the long take over. Probably set a higher sell signal soon, followed by a higher buy signal, and just carry on the trend to the upside. Printed a new demand zone here as well. That guy's gone. Yeah, these auto charting pivot points are such nice invalidation levels. Unfortunately, the fib pull short setup off of it never played out, but just you know, having a very easy, obvious level where to cut your losses, basically. Yeah, with that signal getting invalidated like that, I have no reason to assume we're gonna stop going to the upside now. At least for a little bit. It is just the 1 minute. Something that I'm really itching to do is still looking for that initial super fib setup that I was looking for. I'm not gonna take it, but I mean, there's an obvious reaction there, right? I think the Bulls look strong, and I don't know if I want to fight against them, but there's no denying it. Like, as soon as we touch that 886, just instantly seeing that push down. It's just that my only reason for not taking another swing at a short here is the fact that we did invalidate this level here. Just makes me think that even if we do pull back here, I think it's going to be short-lived. Just a gut feeling at this point, but I just don't know if I want to bet against the Bulls again here. I really should have waited for this level, though, looking back, since it hadn't been tested still. Yeah, there's a very obvious battle going on in this box, hey? The way how fast that candle body moves. There's something going on there. Attack. Oh, I'm really tempted to pull the trigger on a head short, but I just don't want to. I have such a nice long trade going today that I don't need to just end up over trading trying to fight that position. So since it already didn't work out once, I don't really want to try again right now. It's easier to make more money later by just waiting for a new setup than to try and make money back by continue just, you know, losing a few trades at a time. That can add up. I agree with that. I think we are grinding towards 65. 65.5 would be that macro 786 that I've been talking about. I haven't moved this box in what, over a month? Because again, ever since we set this lower low, this has been the big macro range that I'm interested in. It's my doom and gloom box. This whole range here. If we set another lower low, it's going to be my doom range. If we end up breaking this lower high structure, then I'm going to be a bit of a moon boy after that, I guess. Yeah, exactly. Wait for the setup. That's one of the hardest things about trading the 1 minute, honestly, is, you know, one of the reasons why most people struggle with it is because it leads to, you know, over trading, revenge trading, over leveraging, all that sort of good stuff, right? But honestly, that's why I think I trade the 1 minute better, is because I don't have FOMO as much, because I understand that, you know, the ideal setup is probably just within an hour or two away. Because structure changes so much. Whereas, you know, if you miss something on the 4 hour, for example, well, shit, you might have to wait a few days, kind of a thing. So that might end up making you jump in when it's not necessarily an ideal time. Whereas I find on the shorter time frames, I just have the patience that, okay, I'll just wait for it, kind of a thing. But I know a lot of people feel the opposite with that. Just curious, did anyone take this Stuber short? Even if you didn't, it's just nice to kind of see what I mean by how so often there's that initial reaction when you get that pullback, right? As soon as we come up and test this, I don't know if it's going to actually hold or not, but there's an obvious reaction at that level. There's no denying that. The 1 minute's the best, you have to wait the least. That is actually incorrect, because there is second charts. You want to hop over to some 5-second charts? Good luck ever playing that. It's fun to watch the 5-second and the 15-second chart, but I wouldn't recommend trading it. Oh, I didn't fill your order. I guess it also depends if you're on a different exchange. It would obviously, I mean, if you were using the exact numbers I was looking at, they might have been different, but I mean, the 886 wasn't quite hit. I always front run them when I take those positions. I always front run them a little bit. Just like my take profit, right? Like my take profit from that setup. The nice, almost a $400 move if it does make it to the range target. The 214 fib is around 64,060 US dollars. We're already pretty much halfway into the range. I used to actually use the 0.5 fib, like the middle of the range, as my first take profit. With the 214, obviously your win rate goes down a little bit because it's further away and it can reverse quicker. But obviously when it does win, it's a bigger win. So all preference. But like the 0.5 might have already been hit for that type of a short setup. Yep, perfectly. Oh, it stopped exactly at your entry level. Don't you hate that? You'll miss your entry by 50 cents and they'll hit your stop loss to the cent. When I look for bearish divergences, to be honest, there's only really one specific divergence that I look for, and it's in the RSI, and it's that one that I was showing on the weekly and stuff. I just like looking at the RSI going from overextended back into regular territory, basically. Those are really the only divergences I typically look at. Yeah, that might be all that bearish setup had, honestly. The reason I say that is, again, this is going to be very micro analyzing, but technically we have this higher high. This would be our higher low, so we could even pull a micro fib here. Notice where we found support there. You know, until this breaks, that is very micro analyzing, but until that breaks, technically, we are still holding this higher low structure on this very immediate swing. You do entries on the 1 second chart. Yeah, see, that's the thing. I mean, you can use those secondly charts, you know, as part of a strategy. I just wouldn't maybe try and make sense of the structure that's happening and taking entries while that's happening. But as I showed earlier, you know, I was pulling fibs off the 15-minute and talking about how I would go into the 1 minute to really dial in my entry. Same thing goes the other way, right? Like if you were looking at, let's say, a 5-minute or a 1 minute chart and you want to dial your entry in, so you hop into the 1 second or the 5 second chart and really try and nail it, then absolutely. It's just, yeah, like I said, trying to analyze the structure and everything with it on those secondly charts, that could get dangerous. Will I look up Michael Jenkins to get some insight into timing? Yeah, I'm curious about that. I just like to keep my strategies simple strategies for a simple brain, simple guy. But no, I'll check that out. Like I said, once you start seeing these, you just kind of see them popping up all over the place, right? We have this structure break, pull back to the 786, boom, there's the target. Basically just hit it. Obviously, you're not going to take every single one of those trades or whatever. And yes, that is a small profit if you were playing that. But if that's how you're pulling the Fibonacci, then that's the size of range that you're looking at playing, right? So that's where Fibonacci's can really help structure things, because there's no room for second opinions at that point, right? It's, hey, I'm playing this Fibonacci level to this Fibonacci level. There's my range. If it's not big enough, then I'm just pulling too small of a range and I'm expecting a bigger move out of a smaller range, right? So it really depends what range you're pulling. But you start to see them play out all over the place. I know a lot of you guys here have watched quite a few of my streams and we've talked many times. Just curious, show of hands, how many of you guys have been using Stuber Fibs? Using that 786, 886 as a part of your strategies. I know a lot of people have said that it's really helped them kind of zone in, dial in how they scalp. Retail is 44% long. I wouldn't actually say that's meaningless. I agree. It's hard to. Let's put it this way. I wouldn't enter a position based on the long short of retail. However, it's a good indicator as far as, does it make sense that, just as a second opinion, does it make sense that we would keep going up? Well, as I was saying, yes, we're going into resistance, but the market is actually looking at it as resistance this time, which is strange because everyone loves to have FOMO and be moon boys at resistance. But the fact that there is actually not many people trying to long into resistance makes me think that, hey, we could go a little bit higher, right? Try and drive that bigger FOMO in at a little bit of a higher level yet. So just kind of using it as an indicator of, does it make sense that we could go a little higher? Yeah, I think so. Because usually when we see those big reversals, the market is extremely long heavy. Again, trying to time an entry based off it, yeah, it's not necessarily going to work that way, but just understanding that, hey, it makes sense that the market would move this direction, kind of a thing. Zeus, you raised your hand because I asked you to. Thank you. I know you've been on the Stuber Fibs, so you keep that hand up. I agree that nothing we will do will affect the price in one way. Like, you see on Twitter and on social media in general, you see everyone, oh, quit selling, blah, blah, blah. Well, actually, the quicker retail sells and the quicker that the big players can get the prices that they want on things, the quicker we can carry on with the bull market, basically. It is a little bit of I don't know. Generally speaking, the vast majority of retail is going to be wrong. So you can use it as an indicator a little bit. But again, it's just kind of a small piece to the puzzle, right? At the end of the day, in my opinion, it's always chart structure first. From there, I start looking into indicators. From there, I start looking into fundamentals like, fear and greed index and retail, long, short, stuff like that. But I'm the kind of guy who I will never trade on news or fundamentals or anything like that until the market structure actually agrees with it. As people were getting serious FOMO at, what was it, 68, 70K, whatever, when it was the 886 during the Trump speeches, or Trump was about to speak. I remember FOMO was going crazy. Everyone said we were going straight to 100K after he gave his speech, blah, blah, blah. It was the perfect 886 reversal point, sell the news event. And the market, if I remember correctly, the market was like can't remember if it was like 76% long, 77% retail long, something like that. But if anything, yeah, we're not moving the market, but we can provide enough liquidity for the market maker to decide to move the market, is more so how I look at it. Yes, exactly. Price and time, but that liquidity can speed things up if the right people get their hands on it, is basically how I look at it. Busy like in the Stuber fibs? Right on. Love to hear it. Love to hear it. I think the reason why the majority of retail is wrong is because the market is manipulated against them, as they have the most capital, even though it is dispersed. Um, well, I think I think they're wrong because it's manipulated, yes. But I think it's just, when the big fish in the sea are, when they actually have that liquidity there, they can actually fill their orders, right? Without pushing the price on themselves, kind of a thing. So yes, they will use retail liquidity against them. So technically, I would call that manipulation, but I think it's just understanding how to use that liquidity, basically. Let's see what the old ALGO master is saying right now. See, so the way I've been looking at this indicator, like I said, I haven't used this a ton yet. But one thing that I really like to see, that I can speak for right here, was a beautiful signal, as well as right here, a beautiful signal, is we start to see these demand zones overlapping each other, and especially when we already have a buy trend, right? So that's just showing a great deal of support below the price. So beautiful signals there. Same with back here, right? I actually pointed this out in a different group earlier today when we were trading right here. It was actually when this green candle closed right here. I said, this is where I want to see support hold if the bulls are going to continue moving, basically, because we had a higher buy signal here. We had overlapping demand zones. That was just looking like, if we lose that, then there's obviously a lot of sell pressure. But that's exactly where we ended up finding support. Even printed another higher buy signal, absolutely off to the races. Yeah, so there's some good support down here, right around 64K. That's kind of where the buyers stepped in again. Yeah, double top in this uptrend will continue. I agree. And also, to go with that, just the fact that, like I said, with this Stuber fib setup, the fact that we've tested it a couple of times now makes me think that, we're just going to keep tapping away at it and hopefully break through soon. Gonna have to see, but like I said, buyers obviously came in at around 64K using this indicator here. So yeah, I think the bulls are in pretty good shape yet. Again, guys, if you do appreciate these streams, just checking out some live charts together, do me a favor, hit that like button, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And yeah, if these indicators that I'm always throwing up here, if they interest you, there's a link down below that gives an additional 10% discount on top of current promotions at checkout. So if that's something that interests you, check her out. I just love how these indicators make my charts look. Like I said earlier, I'm a simple guy. I love my colors. Got a sub? Oh, thank you very much. Be sure to subscribe to the Financial Summit here, as well as Stu Trading, all one word. That's my personal channel as well, just a small channel. But sometimes I post shorter updates there. Or if I'm doing less professional streams, more on the intoxicated side. Drunk streams. But OKC, do you have Twitter by chance? It would just be easy if you go there and shoot me a direct message on Twitter. Same thing, StuTube Trading, all one word. There should be, I believe there's a link down below that should have all my social info on it. But yeah, I'm down to hear it. Ideally, I would love to see this demand zone hold, just because we also have this buy trend lining up with it. But even if we do see some sort of a bigger pullback, I wouldn't be too surprised to see something like this come up. Pulling a Fibonacci. Notice that where we had those overlapping demand zones here, lines up perfectly with the 886. So we would hopefully end up finding support at that level. Can I just message you on YouTube? I just don't want to be posting different Discord stuff. not regarding this channel kind of a thing is all. I'm going to see if I can do that. But either way, I think I'm actually going to wrap up here, fellas. I've got a few things that I want to get done because, like I said, I just got home from a little vacation. Had to go to San Diego for a bit, go play at the zoo and all that sort of stuff. But I'm back home now, ready to stream again. So yeah, I might even be on again tomorrow. Might hop on tomorrow around this time, or maybe do an evening stream or something like that. But yeah, planning to start streaming a little more again now that I'm back. Tone done his stream earlier today already, I believe. But yeah, anyways, guys, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. So yeah, hopefully you guys found this stream useful. Like I said, if you appreciate just getting my outlook on the markets, taking a look at some of my strategies and that sort of thing, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't. Like I said, if these indicators do interest you at all, there is a 10% discount link down below on top of current promotions. So check that out if you want to give them a try. And with that, I think I'm out. But like I said, I'll be back. I can't Thursday. I have a stream elsewhere. But hopefully be back tomorrow. Somewhere in this time region. And yeah, with that, good luck out there, fellas. May the crypto gods shine down on you. Give you a whole bunch of profits going into this evening. With that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.